Hello and welcome to True Crime Diary, a light-hearted podcast on a serious subject. Every 2 weeks we look back through true crime stories to discuss an event that took place on this week in history. I'm your host Mark Decana, and with me as always are my friends Jed Lester.
Hello.
And Rue Turner.
Hello.
So the date we're looking at today is the 4th of February, and in 1974, shortly before her 20th birthday, Patricia Campbell Hearst was kidnapped from her apartment in California by a group calling themselves the Symbionese Liberation Army. Ransom demands followed, but in a strange twist, less than 3 months later Hearst had joined her abductors and was a wanted criminal herself.
Straight to the periphery of the matter there.
Tangled web.
That's the whole story, almost.
And on next episode...
Join us next week, viewers. I must admit, I thought the story was a bit different. In my head, I got it slightly...
What was in your head?
I thought she just married a robber who broke into her house, and then thought, I like the way he's putting things into a bag. But that sounds as if I've slightly misread the story.
Or read another story entirely.
Yeah. Who is Patty Hearst to be kidnapped in the first place?
Well, she was a budding socialite. She's an heiress. You might remember the name Hearst, as in William Randolph Hearst, the newspaper magnate,
right,
which we talked about briefly in our last episode, the Hearst newspaper empire.
Oh, right. Yeah.
This is a father, isn't it?
This is her grandfather.
A grandfather.
What was the last episode?
The Black Dahlia.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. So the other day, I was listening to... there's an actress called Lauren Ash, and she does a true crime podcast. I thought, I think I'll listen to a true crime podcast. And I was looking down the list of what episodes they do, and I was thinking, and anyway, it said Black Dahlia, and I was thinking, I'm sure I've seen that. I've seen or heard of that somewhere before. Anyway, a few minutes later, I realised that we had recorded it by then, and it's the last episode, viewers.
Viewers. You always say
We've
viewers.
got to get you back to the future.
We need to get you on TV, because you always say viewers, and this is an audio medium.
And I literally had no recollection at all, even about what the Black Dahlia is about. Anyway. So, yes, she was the daughter of a media...
She's granddaughter. She's an heiress.
Right,
so
okay.
William Randolph Hearst, huge, flamboyant. He's huge. He's a newspaper magnate.
Yep.
His son, Randolph, and Patricia, as she prefers to be called. She's mostly widely known in the media as Patty Hearst.
Yep.
As is the media's want.
Is Randolph's daughter, so William Randolph's granddaughter.
Mm-hmm.
So her grandfather, William Randolph, was, as I believe, one of the inspirations for Citizen Kane.
Correct, yes.
Because he built some huge, wildly expensive house/castle.
Yeah, very much so.
With its own,
Right.
menagerie and zoo that were
Polar
free
bear.
to roam,
Yeah.
tens of thousands of acres.
Flamingo.
Yeah, he was a disgustingly wealthy man.
Yeah.
Hugely wealthy, very influential. So even with his army of children, she would have been very well off as an heiress.
Right. So presumably there was an army of grandchildren.
Yes, so he had William Randolph had a few children, and one of his children, Randolph, he had a number of children, and Patricia, she was the third of 5 daughters.
But she was... I'm just trying to work out why she would have been chosen.
Well, she was studying at university. She was a sophomore and living in San Francisco, and she was just easy to get at. In fact, what's interesting is that the police heard about possible kidnapping planning the year before, I believe, and her name came up as a possible target, and they dismissed it almost completely out of hand. And the family themselves, because there were so many children, they didn't see, because the wealth would have been quite spread out.
Of course, yeah.
They didn't think they needed much in terms of security. So she was a viable target in that respect.
She asked the FBI after the fact, why didn't you tell me that I was a possible target?
Right. Yeah.
And apparently the answer was, well, what would you have done?
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair.
Not been there? Might have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, not being at home in her apartment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be kidnapped. I suppose arguably it would be pointless.
I mean, exactly.
Just be afraid all the time.
Literally, what you're going to do about it, but
Yeah. So at the time of the kidnaps, she was with her boyfriend. They were in their apartment, and kidnappers burst in, members of the Symbionese Liberation Army.
They're trying to kidnap me!
Beat up the boyfriend, whisk Patty away and bundle her into the trunk of a car, and away they go. So the Symbionese Liberation Army, or the SLA, their argument was that they were an anti-capitalist group.
right.
They were there to unite all other anti-capitalist groups in symbiosis
Okay.
as one,
Symbiotic
basically. Yeah,
relationship.
everyone's equal.
Apart
Power
from
to
that girl
apart from that one.
who we're going to,
Yeah.
kidnap.
And
So we should give them their full title,
Yeah.
which is the United Federated Forces of the Symbionese Liberation Army.
Yeah.
Right.
I told you, we're an anarcho-syndicalist commune.
I mean, forces and, army,
How many
they're
words?
strong words. Well, I mean, arguably, it's been as many as 20, maybe. Probably more like 10 or 12.
But not 20 turning up to kidnap her.
No.
3. Or
They were
whatever.
mostly young white women,
Oh, were they?
but they were led by an African-American man named Donald DeFreeze, who was an ex-con.
Sounds like a rapper.
He dies. A good name.
Or a superhero.
Yeah, a Batman villain.
Tonight's forecast. A freeze is coming.
So basically, he was a criminal who gathered people around him.
Okay.
You know,
Arguably a kind of cult leader.
arguably a cult leader, yeah,
Yeah, sure.
yeah. But they were a legitimate threat. So when they formed this group in 1973, the year before, their first act was an assassination. They murdered
Wow.
a principal of a school, an African-American superintendent, because, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it was alleged that he was supported the idea of introducing ID cards in the school. That was his
Did he
crime.
give DeFreeze a bad grade?
Yeah, well, one has to wonder what other motivation was there. I mean, it wasn't. I mean, assuming he actually supported it, as was alleged, what was he expecting to achieve by assassinating this woman? But they were a danger because he was obviously prepared to kill.
So, what were their demands?
So once they kidnapped Patty,
Yep.
they demanded a ransom or a form of ransom. Basically, they said that they wanted $70 worth of food for every poor citizen.
Oh, okay. So
Of
it
LA.
wasn't like 100 million,
It would have ultimately been about 100
Oh, right,
million,
right, right, yeah.
arguably,
No, but I mean,
to feed
like,
everyone.
for us, it was
Yeah.
actually their motives were to distribute wealth.
Yeah.
Technically.
Well, yeah. So they claim.
Well, yeah.
They didn't
force,
give
yeah.
a Swiss bank account number and,
No.
Right.
and order a jet.
Yeah. They
They just said feed the poor.
they said feed. Basically, they said feed the poor. Yeah.
Right.
The poor are going to be absolutely thrilled. Charming people. Of course, they haven't got 2 pennies to rub together, but that's because they're poor.
So he wanted them to distribute basically food to poor people in and around San Francisco.
Yep. Just
Now-
quite admirable.
Yeah, well, Hearst straight away said that's impossible. I can't do that, and said I'm not going to give you anything.
Sure. Right. Okay. Yeah.
But
Never knowingly doing something he doesn't believe in.
well, yeah,
Talking about
yeah.
the grandfather said this.
No, the father
The
Randolph
father. Yep.
said no.
We could do it. It's just a bit logistically. It might take a while.
Yeah,
Well, you just tell all the shops, give everything away. I'll pay for it.
Yeah.
It's logistically
That's
quite
nice.
easy. It's
Yeah,
financially complicated.
Yeah, but that would just incite.
Yeah, well, yeah,
that would
yeah.
incite rioting and looting, wouldn't it?
it's interesting you should say that because although Hearst said no to begin
Yeah.
with,
Oh.
a voice recording of Patty Hearst was released, basically saying, kidnapped, and
Sure, yeah.
and at that point, Randolph then said, "Okay, we'll do something." So he set up a charity called People in Need
Yes.
to distribute
Of course.
the food.
Right.
Then you can write it off against tax.
And it's right, oh, yeah,
Of
yeah.
course you did, yeah.
So he started actually distributing $2 million worth of food.
Right.
Got your damn money. Now where's my daughter?
But it was so poorly organised that there were effectively riots in the street, people grabbing food.
Yes, exactly.
So it was a nightmare. It was chaos.
Because
Right,
initially
right.
you need to identify the poor.
Yeah.
In
Are you
order to
poor?
give- yeah.
Good.
Would you like some food? So they attempted it, but it started.
He
kicking
tried it,
off.
yeah. DeFreeze said that $2 million wasn't enough and demanded that they do more.
Yep.
The riot wasn't big enough.
Right, wasn't big
We
enough.
need to put up a bigger offering to incite a larger riot.
How much time has passed? And is she?
Oh,
She's been
fortnight, 2 weeks.
kidnapped, and they somewhere they don't know where she is. Obviously,
Yeah.
otherwise they'd go and get her. Kind
Well, yeah. I mean, if that's the case in all kidnapping.
She hadn't posted anything on Instagram for weeks.
Well, they said release tape recordings. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nature's Instagram.
Sure. Yeah. So I wonder what her feelings were at that stage of 2 weeks, technically 2 weeks of hearing their plans for after hopefully receiving a load of money to not apparently keep it, but to redistribute it. Which presumably she was starting to think different things in their favour.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is where it sort of goes a bit weird, because if you believe what she says, which is our only real source of information, she said at the time, for about 2 months, she was locked in a cupboard.
Oh, right. Goes back.
Yeah, that's nearly 2 months, wasn't it? She was locked in a cupboard.
2 months, yeah, nearly 2 months.
2 months is pretty much...
It's nearly 2 months. Yeah.
Nearly 2 months.
It's almost 2 months. She said she was blindfolded most of the time, and she was constantly subjected to physical and sexual abuse.
Oh, Christ. Oh, right.
Apparently.
Right, fine. Okay.
There are...
Very nice.
Yeah, but the counterpoint to that is that the other members of the group, other than DeFreeze, were like a feminist group. The argument is there's no way they would allow her to be abused / raped,
Right.
as she claimed. Because basically it was only DeFreeze. Because there were loads of women,
Right,
most of them were all going to be women. I mean, it's arguable that they might think, well, she's just a capitalist pig and do what you like, but...
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's counterpoint to it. But what happens is that everyone says this Stockholm Syndrome idea arose where, because they were violent and vicious and what have you, but then turned out to be all right because they're giving them away food, maybe she came to identify with their characters.
Sure, yeah.
The other argument to that is that she just wanted to stay alive, and if she would help them, they wouldn't get killed.
Yeah, when it comes down to the wire, you'll do anything to remain alive, pretty much. There's very, very few hills I'm willing to die on.
I'm not willing to die on any hills. Hills, dales, valleys, no death.
Hospitals, me.
It'll be a ditch.
In the gutter. Although Stockholm Syndrome is not a syndrome.
No.
Do we know what she studied at Berkeley or
art history?
Art history, right? Okay. I mean
that's a classic nothing degree. Yeah.
I just the only reason why I asked is if she was hoping to be educated in a certain subject that they either agreed with or massively disagreed with, but perhaps they hated art history.
Yeah.
Bloody hate art history.
It's very lefty liberal, isn't it?
Yeah.
We only support the Impressionists. Bugger the old masters.
So, right, okay. So we're up to 2 months has passed, are we?
Yeah.
And some money has been attempted to be distributed badly.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the interesting thing is, so on the 3rd of April, so this is properly 2 months now. On the 3rd of April, properly 2 months. Not nearly 2 months, actually 2 months. She released another recording, and on this one, she claimed that she was a fully fledged member of the SLA.
Right.
She said,
again, it's another, as you say.
Yeah.
I've listened to some of these recordings.
Have you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Of course you have. Yeah.
She's clearly reading them out.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
These are not spontaneous.
Well, maybe she wanted to prepare her thoughts, as I do with our introduction when I read.
Everything
clearly reading it.
Everything we say of you is read out.
It's read out, including that
Mark
and that.
Written it, scripted it.
It says here, chuckle underhandedly.
Yeah. Every time Jed goes,
it's in the script.
It says that.
It's fine,
it says, pause 3 seconds.
Yeah.
But that aside, because I mean, obviously they're going to write it down. Even if she wrote it herself, she's going to, this is an official release by the group.
Yeah, you want to say it right. You need to prepare some notes.
So the fact that she's reading it out, I don't think you can read anything into that. It's simply, it's just simply that she's not a great broadcaster.
She's not. She's a 19-year-old. She's not a professional.
Whilst being under kidnappery.
Yeah,
exactly.
So what did she say? Do we know what she said?
Well, she said that...
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
So she said she denounced the family. She said she was a member of the SLA
right.
now.
Okay.
She said that she wanted to be known as her guerrilla name, which was Tania. Tania, allegedly taken from one of companions of Che Guevara.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Which was her, I don't know her full name, but her code name, if you like, was Tania. So she took that. And basically, she says, I'm all for the SLA, I'm with them, you're all a bunch of capitalist pigs, etc. The spouting the doctrine, if you like.
I mean, I must admit, until you said, understandably, you'd say anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I'm now thinking, I'm kind of trying to find holes in the fact that apparently she...
Yeah.
Are you going to say she didn't fall in love, but she agreed with her captors, basically, is the story. Why are we talking about this? She got kidnapped, and she basically went, oh yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Well, it seems at this point like she is, I don't know whether you want to say falling under their spell, but starting to feel compassionate towards their goals.
But if you chuck in the
she's captive,
she's captive, she'll say anything, and then you chuck in the apparently she was subject to some potentially assault, you kind of think, well, hang on.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to say, obviously.
Whatever it takes to get me out of here alive.
These guys have said some really good points.
Well, we've mentioned the Stockholm Syndrome thing, which is the thing that always comes up. Now, the incident in the Bank of Stockholm, or whatever, was in 1973. It was the year before.
Oh, right.
Which
classic. It's a classic. Oh, yeah, Stockholm Syndrome.
Everyone says that, but what does that mean?
Yeah, these days it's a classic. If there's any form of I don't know, understanding or relationships.
Yeah,
it's full on classic people who don't know what they're talking
about. Don't know what it is. Yeah, well, exactly.
Stockholm Syndrome is almost a meme now, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Yeah. He's a wrong, and she loves him. Stockholm. No.
I went on holiday to Sweden. It was really good.
Yeah, you got Stockholm.
Yeah. The capital, specifically the capital.
So just briefly, the reason that phrase arose was in 1973 there was a robbery of a bank in Stockholm, which it went quite badly and it turned into a hostage situation.
Yep.
And they were in there
the ground
for some period of time, like but days, not months.
Right.
And basically, the idea was that after it was all over, the people who'd been held hostage were defending their hostage takers, even though long after they'd been released. So it wasn't like, I'm fighting for my life here. I'll say anything because, but no, they were free and they were defending. That's the Stockholm thing. They identified with their captors. That's in days, not months.
That's what I'm saying. It seems quite quick. It's like being captive and probably frightened for your life, and then hours later, these guys are great. Over a period of months, which she was subjected to, I can be persuaded that she could be persuaded, and but days.
No,
I mean that's too short.
Surely. I think in days you'd have to be on the verge of sympathising already. They'd have to be drawing some parallels with what you already believe. Yeah. She was also, as I understand it, lectured to quite heavily by them. And
they would
given quizzes.
They would have
indoctrinated. You had to get the answers right.
Well,
so that's really kind of learning the politics.
Massive.
Yeah.
And also
it's very indoctrination.
It's key. Intrinsic indoctrination. I don't know about brainwashing, but just it's in your it's in your brain, and you know all their facts.
It's kind
facts, not the
doublethink, isn't it? It's Who wrote that?
Orwellian.
Orwellian doublethink.
Right, okay.
Thought criminals. Well, if there's any
1983,
yeah.
Mega album.
That prequel.
Brilliant album.
Jesus.
With a brilliant follow-up.
Yeah. I can't remember what it was called. Carry on.
Well, if there was any doubt about her affiliation, it was soon, whether it was of her own volition or not, was proven on the 15th of April when she was photographed taking part in an armed robbery.
Ooh.
Armed with an assault rifle.
Wow.
So if you're fighting for your life and someone hands you an assault rifle and you leave the building, you could probably just shoot them and run off.
Well, that is true. Yes, yes. That's a good point.
But everyone else in the team is carrying an assault rifle, so you start to look like you're not really taking part, and you could easily end up as one of the hostages behind the counter.
And bullet in head.
Yeah.
Well, possibly.
Right. Okay. So they, for some reason, decided to rob somewhere.
Yeah, because the thing about anti-capitalists is they always want loads of money.
Right. Yeah.
Weird that.
Okay.
So they robbed the Hibernia Bank in Hollywood of $10,000,
which was a bank belonging to one of Patty Hearst's friends. Her friend's parents, should I say.
Yeah.
Her dad's friends.
No, her friends.
Her friends.
Oh, okay.
Parents.
Right.
But they didn't know that. She didn't tell them.
I know he's got money. That bank.
Yeah.
Patricia said she didn't tell them that it was her friend's parents' bank.
Okay.
Because, when they found out, they said, "Why didn't you tell us?" And she said it was because she didn't want them to choose the bank because it was her friend's parents' bank. She wanted them to choose it because it was the best bank for them to rob.
Look at all your friends. They all own banks.
Right, okay. Well, it was a good bank.
And I think they fell for it.
Well, I don't think it made an enormous amount of bank's a bank.
No.
Money's money.
And they robbed it.
And they robbed it.
Yeah.
Successfully.
10 grand.
Doesn't seem very much.
10 grand, 1974.
Yeah.
What, 30? Well, it's not that. No, it's still not that much. It'd be 30,
That's what I'm saying.
30, 40 today.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah.
10. I mean, it's just a bit.
It's a
really?
bag full.
Yeah. Well, you got.
It's a bag full. Yeah.
You can only run out with what they got.
I don't know. I don't know how many of them were there. If there were like 10 of them.
No, there was only
$1,000 each.
I think there were 3 or 4 of them, including her. They ran in. They weren't wearing masks or anything.
Right.
They went in, give us the money.
I've seen a famous picture of.
Likely.
Yeah.
The footage is widely available.
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Of course, the only person who seems to be wearing, I would say, it's not a disguise, but
a huge false moustache.
But, what's his name? DeFries. DeFries is wearing like a big floppy hat that kind of covers his face a bit.
It was the 70s.
Yeah.
It was his pimp hat.
Right, yeah, and flared trousers and a leather jacket.
Again.
Yeah.
Again, like everyone else. He was wearing flared trousers on the platforms, so everyone is a suspect.
So, everyone in Hollywood was wearing a wide-brimmed hat and flares. Right.
A loud, wide lapel.
You are in Hollywood in the 1970s. So.
Paisley shirt with lapels touching his collars.
A long purple suit.
Yeah.
How long...
goldfish in the heels of his shoes.
How long has passed since the original kidnapping? Are we like 3 months into it, or
10 weeks from the kidnapping to the robbery, and a week later, another tape was released.
Oh yeah,
which is a recording of Patty Hearst admitting to her part in the robbery.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and claiming.
Does anyone else talk? It's only her who talks or sings.
Oh, yeah, on these sings. Another hit release from Patty Hearst.
Sounds like a 70s singer.
Yeah, Patty Hearst. Yeah. But in this recording, not only did she admit her part in the robbery, she also says that the media claims of brainwashing are ridiculous.
So, they're ridiculous. But
well, she said they were ridiculous, and she should know. She was there.
Was she reading it, though?
Well, she might be reading it, but she might have written it down.
Okay, fine.
Well, I was mixed up in that bank robbery.
So it's an ongoing, massive story, presumably now.
Yeah, so first of all, it's the kidnapping of an heiress, and then within 2 months and in less than 3 months, she's already now a wanted criminal. There's a warrant out for arrest for bank robbery.
Like, really, it's a brilliant story.
It's amazing.
And one guess is it's all over her daddy's newspapers.
Oh, well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now,
yes,
there's a warrant for her arrest. She's now a criminal.
Yeah.
There would be.
She's gone from victim to perpetrator.
Now we're through the looking glass here, people.
I was going to say, I wonder if they kind of cancel each other out.
I did get kidnapped. Can I have a free ride on the whole armed robbery thing?
Run along.
Oh, you.
I've got class. I
got daddy's money.
Yeah, well, there.
True. Well, yeah.
Okay.
Right, case dismissed. So about a month later, now we're in mid-May, there was another robbery. This was in Inglewood, Los Angeles.
So we're now 3 months after the
3
abduction.
months from abduction, yes, exactly. Now, there was a sporting goods store
And
seems a bit lowbrow, but
yeah, so
perhaps they needed a goal net or some swing ball.
They needed some swimming shorts.
Yeah.
So Hearst was sitting in a van.
Yep.
While two of her compatriots, Emily and Bill Harris, went into the store, and the manager accused them of shoplifting and pursued them outside.
Yep. I've got some table tennis
Bats. Yeah.
Go,
Quick. Yeah.
You got 2 red ones. We need a blue.
But I love sports.
Now the thing is, the shop owner managed to grab hold of Bill Harris, but a revolver fell out of his pants.
Yep.
At which point,
It's a dangerous place to keep a gun.
Yeah.
From the robber, not the shopkeeper.
The robber fell from his belt. Yeah. At which point, Patty Hearst apparently emptied an entire magazine from a carbine she was carrying at the shopkeeper.
Oh God.
Apparently,
To the shopkeeper.
well, he was fired upon.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty definite, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Basically, yeah.
If you didn't need any more explanation that she's been turned.
Well, exactly, yeah.
Was he all right?
It was all right. He dove behind like a lamppost or something. He doved.
Doveth?
Divin.
This is why English is so hard to learn.
Both, isn't it?
Yeah.
You have dived.
You have dived.
I have dived, or I dove.
I dove.
Yeah.
It's pronounced duvet.
He hid.
He hid.
Carry on.
Because that was enough distraction for them to escape him on the pavement and then get into the car and
Yeah, well, there was a young man who testified at her trial later that he was abducted, or he and one of the other owners were abducted at the scene. They abandoned the van and they stole some cars, and so the kidnapped girl, assisted in the kidnapping of these shop owners or their representatives.
Yes, yep.
And this man who...
I thought he doved.
She's a kidnapped person kidnapping someone.
Yeah.
So, they bundled him into the car, / cars. But this man, he testified at her trial that he spent the time in the car. Hearst was constantly asking him if he was all right. And then, weirdly, they discussed the relative merits and effectiveness of cyanide-tipped bullets.
Really?
Which was one of the...
This is after he'd been fired upon.
How would either of them know that?
Yeah. Well, cyanide-tipped bullets was what the SLA used. They used it at I mentioned the assassination at the beginning of the school principal / superintendent, whatever he was. They used cyanide-tipped bullets. So Hearst and the two Harrises, the Harrisode, they flee. They flee in the hijacked cars, which this obviously splits them up from the remainder of the army. Inverted commas.
Yep.
They flee, they fly.
They flee. So there's the remaining 6 members of the SLA. The rest of the army are in a hideout, which is now surrounded by police.
All right.
So
not so well hidden.
Well, not that well hidden.
Like Ned Kelly.
Yeah, exactly. Very much like Ned Kelly. Basically, there's a gunfight, and as always happens and as happened in that, as always happens in a siege, after the gunfight, there's a resultant fire breaks out.
Oh yeah, like Ned Kelly.
History repeating itself.
It's exactly the same.
Except none of them were wearing armour they'd fashioned themselves.
Yeah.
I bet nobody at the scene said, "This is not like Ned Kelly." They should have.
You know what this reminds me of? Do you know what this situation we're in? Exactly.
Keep quiet a moment, lads. Do you know what this reminds me of? Well, I suppose technically the police were just responding to a robbery.
Well, they were hunting they were hunting down the SLA because of the armed robbery / kidnap charges, obviously for Hearst, outstanding. Yep. So everyone, all 6 SLA members in the hideout died as a result of the gunfire and the firefire.
Oh, right. For some reason,
they had
no clue that
they were either
say that.
shot or burned to death.
Yeah.
Right.
Apart from Patty Hearst.
So was
and the Harrises,
who weren't there.
Who weren't there?
Oh, sorry.
Because they
weren't there. Right.
They fled in their stolen cars.
Yes.
Whilst they were running from this sporting goods store.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right. So meanwhile, whilst the Hearst gang were robbing the sporting store, everyone else had been rumbled or something.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Sorry.
Yes.
I thought Hearst then got into the gunfight.
Well, apparently, they thought that Hearst might have been in the house at the time, but apparently she was nearby and actually saw like the fire.
Right.
Apparently.
Oh, wow.
So Hearst released another tape, 7th of June.
Yeah.
Basically,
Best of.
as a greatest hits. It's a eulogy, basically, for those who died in the in the fire, in the siege,
for the comrades,
the fallen comrades. Yeah. So basically, now she's going to carry on. She meets up. She went to a wake, I suppose, a service.
Yep.
Where she met up with other radicals, and they basically started to help each other out, if you like. They sort of do stuff for each other. So, like, for example, Hearst was she started to help make IEDs.
Yeah. I thought you were going to say crochet or something.
I thought you were going to say do each other's shopping.
Yeah, I'm going to help you out.
Right.
Here's a bomb.
No. It's a snow cone maker. That's what it is.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's in bomb making.
She's definitely turned.
Yeah, she's learnt something in art history, hasn't she?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, right. So that was the thing that she was going to specialise in, her barter system.
Yeah, well, the effective annihilation of the SLA didn't...
Yes.
It didn't like, oh, well, that's over. I'll turn myself in or go and do something else. She basically... They just sort of allied with other groups and started doing more.
The SAL.
Yeah, all right. Sal.
I don't know. The
Better call Sal.
The army of...
Salvation Army Liberation.
Right, okay.
There's another robbery, 21st of April, in Carmichael, California, when a 42-year-old bank customer was shot dead in pursuance of a robbery.
Right.
Now, finally, we get to September 1975.
75? We're a year and a half later.
Yeah.
Wow.
So years gone by to the robbery, and then now we get to September. She's arrested in San Francisco along with the two Harrises.
Yep.
And another. When she's taken to the police station and asked, what's your name? Name is Tania.
Okay. Yeah.
And what is your occupation? She said urban guerrilla.
Okay. Yeah.
That was her
As you
claim.
would.
Yeah. So she's charged with armed robbery and held in custody. Now they get F. Lee Bailey to argue her case.
Wow.
Well, Hearst's parents, Randolph and Mrs. Randolph, they engaged the lawyer.
Right.
And they got, a celebrity defense attorney.
So he was, if you describe it like that, he was that then, mid-70s.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. So for OJ, which was mid-90s-ish, they obviously hired the best person for
Yeah.
Yeah, he must have learnt how to do it by then.
Yeah. Well, maybe not. He was the Clarence Darrow of his day.
Clarence?
That's what I wanted to do.
Who needs your facts?
F stand for?
Frankie Lee. Francis Lee Bailey Jr.
I always think putting a letter at the start of your name gives you quite a lot of gravitas.
Is it?
Yeah.
J. Ed.
Yep.
F. Scott.
Yeah. F. Mark.
Harvey.
F. Mark Felt. He was...
Mark Felt, yeah. Deputy Director at CIA.
And Deep Throat.
And Deep Throat. / Deep Throat.
E.
Howard Hunt. Watergate burglar.
Yeah. I don't mean like Michael J. Fox or anything like that.
No, that's a middle.
Has to be at the start. But I think it's quite...
Yeah.
I think it's quite... what would you be called?
That'd be it. Because I don't have a middle name.
Oh, do you not?
No.
Oh,
it was going to be Alan, but then my initials would have been MAD.
Oh, you'd be rubbish.
Yeah, I'd be rubbish. M. Thank you. I just M. Yeah, like the Bond character.
Yeah, that's what we think of you.
Yeah.
The Bond character.
Yes.
Moneypenny? Anyway.
F. Lee Bailey.
So how did he get on?
Well, not great. I mean, he also defended the Boston Strangler. And he got
He went down as well.
He got the hang of it by the 80s, didn't
But
he?
he was her
He
defence.
got fired, wasn't he?
He was her defence.
He was her defence,
Right,
yeah.
okay.
Well, basically, he was arguing the Stockholm Syndrome angle.
Yeah, of course he was.
But that's the trouble with the law then. Was
Well, I think you're fine. The trouble with the law.
Here we go. Sweeping statements coming up.
If I might generalise just for a moment.
If I might generalise specifically.
Yeah.
What's the problem with the law?
No, it's because of. I mean, we come across this kind of difficulty many times. Is you have to judge something on the way that the law is written at the time that the crime is being tried.
Yes.
And at that time, Stockholm Syndrome or reprogramming or whatever you like to call it wasn't a recognised thing.
Oh, okay.
That could
but
be
it was
brought
in the
to
public
court.
True,
Yeah,
but it
it's
was in the
known
public
about,
consciousness.
But it could not be defended in law.
No,
True.
Yes, you're dead right. Yeah.
Well, the problem with one of the problems, apart from the legal aspect, is that because this was a new thing, the expert witnesses called all contradicted one another. So they didn't. So it wasn't really.
Which really just
new
leads
thing.
jurors to make up their own minds. They don't have any guidance.
Yeah. So like, nah.
If the experts can't agree, then you have nothing to go on.
She probably kidnapped herself.
And also at the trial, though, and Patty Hearst said this afterwards, she said that Bailey was a bumbling fool. Apparently his defence and his summing up was quite half-hearted, allegedly intoxicated. Maybe not. But yeah, he wasn't very good. Which is why all of his clients seem to go to prison.
Yeah, he's depicted in the film as being sacked by her. I don't know if that happened in real life.
Well, we got to summing up, so if she did sack him, it was a bit late in the day.
After
Exactly.
Guilty. You're fired. Late. Fine. No appeal for you. So it's quite interesting because she's found guilty of armed robbery.
Right.
She's sentenced provisionally to 25 years for bank robbery and 10 years for use of a firearm in commission of a
Did she get sympathy?
Well, yeah, there were 2 quarters because there was, again this idea.
That's a half.
It's a half. Well, only half the country was paying attention. There was 2 schools of thought. I was going for a completely different sentence and I ruined it. So basically, because of this whole Stockholm nonsense being banded around.
Yes. So he obviously went with that.
Some people went, that was the defence. That's what she's maintained ever since. Some people went with that, and other people went with, well, she was shooting at people, and she was at least 2 bank robberies.
But it's just classic rich white.
She made bombs, crying out loud.
Rich white girl.
Those
supposed to shoot.
This trial in 1976, those bombs I mentioned her making, they were used.
Oh yeah.
They were used in 1976 in the attempted murder of some police officers. But so she made them. She wouldn't have had anything to do with the use or delivery of them. But nonetheless,
were they usable, functional bombs?
Yeah.
You say attempted.
Well, they didn't get their targets.
Right.
They blew up.
Okay. All right.
Oh, okay.
They affect.
No,
the bombs went off, but they didn't kill their targets.
Right.
She got 35 years. Now there was a judicial review, and this was changed to 7 years.
35 to 7.
Yeah.
25. Well, it's really easy, isn't it, to blame some good luck that a rich, wealthy person, powerful parents gets when they get an upside. It's really easy to blame it on that power and influence.
Well, yeah. Also, even more so when you realise only less than 2 years into her sentence, then President Jimmy Carter commuted it to time served, and she was released.
So she only served 2.
Yeah.
Out of
less than
technically 7.
35.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, that doesn't happen, does it?
No. I mean, how many African American teenage people?
Yeah. It's fine, let him out now.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Just forget it. Yeah.
Bill and Emily Harris, who pleaded guilty to kidnap of Patty Hearst, they served 8 years in prison for the kidnapping.
So they did the armed robbery, and they kidnapped. Having kidnapped one of the armed robbers, helped.
Well, they were charged with and plead guilty to the kidnap. They weren't charged for the bank.
Oh, were they?
No. I don't know if they were in that bank.
The kidnap of Patty Hearst.
The kidnap of Patty Hearst, they served 8 years.
And the reason why they got 8 years is because Patty Hearst said, all right. Do you reckon that's why it Or that's what
I imagine it's because they
sentence
pleaded
is
guilty.
handed
That
out.
was the agreement with the.
I see what you kind of seem to be suggesting at there, Jed, is Patty Hearst did the bank robberies.
Yeah.
Was they did abduction
I know,
and bank
I
robberies.
thought you were
Surely
gonna
it should have
say-
been 35 years plus
I know,
the
I thought you were
abduction
gonna say they
charge.
got-
They
50
weren't
years
charged
away.
for the robbery.
Right,
They were
okay.
charged with kidnap and they pleaded guilty. That
So
was
the robberies were entirely Patty Hearst.
well, they
Nobody else was
She's
responsible
in the
for
van.
that.
Not them.
She's the only one.
no, they're man others, but the others are dead. So yeah, dig them up, charge them with
Yeah,
the
but-
robbery.
Just charge it then.
Just
They're
charge,
alive.
just charge
It's fine.
anyone who's
Mo-
alive.
The large majority of them are dead, so let's close
Just
this
charge
case.
anybody. Yeah, it'll have to be proven that they were there in the robbery.
They're on camera.
Patty Hearst was on camera. We don't know that Ben and
She
Emily
was in the
Harris.
van.
True.
/car.
No, that was
Oh, no.
at the sporting goods robbery,
that's
not the
other
bank.
one. I'm mixing it up.
You're mixing up your robberies.
Oh, sorry.
He could have been charged with
Forget
shoplifting,
everything I
but
just said
kidnap
then.
is a much bigger charge. We're going to throw out the kidnapping charge and charge you with stealing table tennis bats from a sporting goods store.
So she was out in whatever, 77, 78.
Beginning of 79, she's released. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
She in 2001, President Bill Clinton gave her a full pardon.
Really?
Yeah.
I pardon you.
Wow.
On the last day of his presidency.
Oh yeah, they tend to do that.
Yeah.
let
do
off
that?
criminals.
Because it doesn't affect your next election.
Well,
You
I
just-
know that.
And you probably want a
suddenly
job.
plummet in the polls.
No, I know.
You know.
I'm talking about why specifically her of a whatever 25 years ago.
Why would an outgoing president give a full pardon to an extraordinarily wealthy heiress of a newspaper empire?
Well, that's what I'm saying. There you go.
I couldn't possibly conceive.
Yeah. Did you ever finish her art history degree?
No.
Never mind.
Don't need to. She's got a lifetime of talk shows now.
Really? Is she?
Yeah, she's been on TV
Books and
ever
interviews
since.
Really?
Yeah.
Books,
Crime
interviews.
novels.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's loads of films been made about her, or with her.
Mm.
She's been in films.
Are we now on to popular pop culture?
Pop culture, aye.
So my other question about, was she looked on sympathetically? Is that still the case in current interview? I bet it is.
Yes, yeah. I'd say most were sympathetic.
Please welcome Patty Hearst.
Yeah, first question. How dare you?
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
How dare you come on in here?
I know. Yeah.
Running around robbing banks, and now you come on here and say, "Oh, I was a victim of a crime." Yeah. Woe is me.
And that's the.
Nobody ever says that. No,
No.
of course not. They
No,
always go,
but that's her.
Oh, tell us about your
She
terrible
plays
ordeal.
the card.
Yeah, she's very much the victim.
Right.
I was beaten. I'm not saying she wasn't beaten. I'm just
No.
saying there's a lot more to the story. We'll probably never know.
Right. So what? Give us some pop culls.
I mean, there's
she's been in a few things herself.
she's been in some things herself. She's been in films, mostly John Waters movies.
Really? Which ones?
She was in Cry Baby.
Was she?
Yeah.
That's what?
Honestly, I
Like
don't know.
Woman 3 or something.
Woman, yeah. Woman.
Oh, right.
Serial Mom with
Really?
Kathleen Turner. Yeah. She was in that. John
She's
Waters.
been in some utter shite.
Yeah,
fine.
she was in like Biodome and stuff. There's most of the movies about Hearst. Well, there's a lot of movies about Hearst.
Are there?
Yeah. Most notable one, I mean, starting from 1975, so before it even gone to trial.
Really?
Yeah. There was already movies about her. 1975, there's two in 76, 79, 86. And Patty Hearst in 1988 is probably the most well known, if there is such a thing. And that's with Natasha Richardson.
Mm. The late great Natasha Richardson.
Natasha Richardson, yes.
Okay. Yeah.
She was really good, and that's based on one of Patty Hearst's books.
She does appear in some of the marketing material.
Woman 4.
Yeah, she has appeared.
There's photographs of her and Natasha Richardson back to back.
Yeah, no.
Because it's based on her book, she would have been like
Yeah.
consultant. Or something.
Yeah. No, I'm sure there is.
Yeah, quite a different situation to the 2017 movie that never got made.
Yeah.
Which was based on Tubin's book, and he's a great disbeliever of Patricia Hearst's story.
Oh, sorry.
And has written his own version of it where she's kind of, just basically a wild teenager who just got in with a bad crowd and believed everything that she was doing and now backs
It's
out
not
of
just
it.
him making that up. Assuming that.
Yeah. I mean, it's true or not, it's not an unfair assumption.
Sure.
So, an interesting thing I've got is that, you heard of the Jonestown massacre?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, people will know that as basically a mass suicide.
Kool-Aid.
Drinking the Kool-Aid. But what you don't know is that some of Jim Jones' representatives were also out at the same time committing murders. Now, Representative Leo Ryan was collecting signatures for a petition for Hearst's release, and he was a victim of one of Jim Jones' assassins. He was killed. It was him and a couple of other politicians were murdered just before or around the time that then everyone then committed suicide. Wow. And what's even more interesting about that is that at the time, after the Jonestown deaths, John Wayne, the actor, he spoke out, he made a statement saying that it's interesting that people will accept that Jim Jones had managed to brainwash 900 people into mass suicide, but no one would accept that a kidnapped teenage girl could have been brainwashed.
Yeah.
Doesn't anybody believe me?
It's interesting.
I mean, he's got a point, hasn't he?
He's got a point.
Yeah.
That's all for this time. If you want to know more about what we've talked about on this episode, then just Google it or something. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on our website. That's www.truecrimediary.co.uk. Please remember to leave a review on your podcast provider if you can, or you can email us. That's stuff@truecrimediary.co.uk. My thanks to Jed and Rue and to all of you for listening, and we'll see you again on next date in our True Crime Diary.